There is life after truth, but it does not look like the life that came before it. Before truth, the world is soft, comforting, threaded with illusions designed to protect the minds of ordinary people. After truth, real truth, the world becomes sharper, uncomfortable, forever altered. I would know, for I have lived through centuries of these revelations and concealments. They call me many things: the Watcher, the Undying Witness, a Kingmaker, a Shadow Archivist. But names are decorations. What matters is that I have seen America grow, fracture, triumph, and betray itself. I have watched presidents rise like comets and fall like stones. I have walked corridors where secrets are traded like currency. I have bent history when needed and preserved the lie when it protected more lives than it harmed. But this story is not about me. It is about a seeker, an ordinary man who stumbled upon a truth he was never meant to touch. He discovered one of America's buried inventions, its forgotten army of civilian spies, the hidden force of World War I, the organization born not from soldiers, but from neighbors. The American Protective League, a force so powerful, so deeply embedded, that even today its fingerprints remain on the systems Americans take for granted. He did not seek this truth, but truth, as I have learned, has a way of choosing its victims. And now I will tell you what he uncovered, because after a century of silence, perhaps the time has come for America to remember the shadows it once created. His name was Evan Mercer, 35, quiet, observant, an archivist by profession, though he preferred the term seeker. He lived a life that left no loud footsteps, no fame, no scandal, no battles. A man unnoticed in crowds, comfortable on the edges of conversations. But Evan had one trait that made him dangerous. He asked questions even when he wasn't supposed to. His colleagues at the National Records Complex in Maryland teased him gently. Mercer the Mole, they called him, because he burrowed through boxes no one opened, files no one indexed, collections deemed irrelevant by those who did not understand the importance of forgotten things. He did not know it then, but I had been watching him for years. He possessed the unstable mixture of curiosity and conscience that has toppled empires and exposed buried sins. And one morning he found something he should not have. It began with a mislabeled box, a simple brown archival container stamped 1917 and nothing more. He opened it, and the past opened him. Inside the box lay a cracked leather badge reading American Protective League, a small booklet titled Your Duty as a Citizen Operative, dozens of surveillance reports, a list of names, thousands, handwritten in tight, efficient script, and a letter simply addressed, "To whom finds this document, we failed to stop it." Evan blinked. History textbooks had never mentioned a civilian spy force operating inside the United States during the First World War. Certainly not one authorized by the federal government. He read the letter first. Of course he did. The League was never meant to end with the war. It grew roots, it grew heads, it grew purposes. We built a monster of patriotism, and then we lost control. There was no signature, just a final line. If you are reading this, then it has begun again. Evan swallowed hard. Most people would have closed the box and walked away. But seekers do not walk away from whispers in the dark. He tucked the badge into his coat pocket, a decision that placed him on a path from which there was no return. Before I follow Evan further, I must tell you what I remember. I was alive in 1917, alive long before that. But that is another story. When President Woodrow Wilson signed the executive orders that expanded wartime surveillance, I recall the boardrooms filled with influential men debating how to build a network capable of rooting out subversives. They could not build enough agents. They could not infiltrate every community. They could not watch every immigrant, union organizer, or dissenter. So they turned to a new idea. Let Americans spy on Americans. They recruited businessmen, store clerks, private detectives, church leaders, anyone with eyes, ears, and a sense of duty strong enough to override conscience. At its height, the American Protective League, APL, numbered nearly 250,000 civilian operatives. They opened mail, followed neighbors, raided meeting halls, recorded whispered conversations in tenement hallways, and the public accepted it even welcomed it, because fear makes surveillance feel like safety. This is the part Americans forget. The APL did not dissolve. It simply changed names, shifted forms, fragmented into structures that still exist. Corporate security councils, private intelligence contractors, citizen reporting networks. Evan would uncover this piece by piece. And I, yes, even I, could not stop him. 3 days after finding the box, Evan sought answers. He tracked down Agnes Rathborn, age 96, the granddaughter of an APL captain. She lived alone in a quiet Virginia cottage surrounded by oak trees older than most nations. Her eyes sharpened when Evan said the words, American Protective League. "No one uses that name anymore," she whispered. "I found records," Evan said carefully. "Can you tell me what your grandfather did?" Agnes sighed. "My grandfather? He thought he was saving America. But he was only one gear in a machine far larger than he understood." She leaned closer. "Young man, the APL reported to men who never appeared in government photographs. Industrialists, political whisperers, men who met in private rail cars and wrote policy behind velvet curtains." She paused. "Those same families still make decisions today. You think the League died? No, it evolved." Evan felt the room tilt slightly. Agnes reached into a drawer and handed him something fragile and yellowing. A photograph. A group of well-dressed men seated in a parlor room, their faces shadowed by the angle of the lamp. At the bottom, handwritten, Council of National Vigilance, 1918. "We are the eyes behind the flag." Evan thanked her, but Agnes caught his wrist. "You must be careful," she warned. "Once you pull on this thread, someone else pulls back." When Evan returned home that night, he noticed small changes. His mailbox was ajar. The rug near his door had shifted half an inch. His laptop took longer to unlock. A car with tinted windows sat across the street, engine running, lights off. Someone had learned what he discovered. I observed quietly from the margins. It was not my place to intervene. Not yet. Truth tests its seekers. Only the worthy continue forward. Evan, though frightened, did not retreat. Instead, he dug deeper. While examining the surveillance reports, he found something strange. Many were marked with a red stamp. For private interests only. Not government interests, private. He checked cross-references and realized a disturbing pattern. The American Protective League had been funded in part by railroad magnates, steel barons, oil consortiums, banking families, media tycoons. These operatives weren't just rooting out spies. They were controlling labor movements, targeting rival businesses, monitoring journalists, influencing elections. The APL had been a tool of the powerful, and in many ways, still was. At that moment, Evan understood something essential. This wasn't history. This was infrastructure. His next lead came unexpectedly, a phone call from a blocked number. A frail voice on the other end said, "Stop looking through those boxes." Evan froze. "Who is this?" "A name doesn't matter. What matters is that I am one of the last men who served under the League's final directive." "You're saying the APL still existed after the war?" The man chuckled bitterly. "Oh, it never ended. It simply went underground." "Why are you calling me?" "Because you found the letter," the voice replied. "And because the people who built the League, they do not want you to follow the trail." "What happens if I do?" Evan asked. "You'll learn what American power really looks like, and you'll learn why men like me spend our lives in silence." Then the line went dead. Evan returned to work the next morning, only to find access restrictions placed on multiple database files he had used 2 days earlier. Entire document logs were missing. He asked a supervisor. "Probably just reclassification," she said, though her eyes flicked away too quickly. So Evan used the last refuge of every seeker, old-fashioned physical archives, the ones no one believed mattered. Deep within the bowels of the storage facility, he found a filing drawer misfiled under agricultural reports. Inside, wrapped in twine, was a metal key and a map of the old Washington Bureau of Investigation building. At the bottom was a handwritten line, "Room 27, what survived the purge." He followed the map that afternoon. What he found, I had not expected. The building was empty, scheduled for demolition. Evan broke inside easily. Too easily, in fact. Doors that should have been locked were open. Hallways that should have been sealed were accessible, almost as if someone wanted him to enter. Room 27 was a small storage chamber coated in dust. A single light flickered overhead. In the center sat a weathered wooden trunk. Inside the trunk, microfilm reels labeled Vigilance Council operations, original APL interrogation transcripts, membership lists of prominent American families, surveillance photographs dating back to 1917, and one sealed envelope marked simply, "The Continuance Program." Evan opened it, and the truth I had known for a century finally reached him. The envelope contained a document outlining how the APL would be reinvented for future crises. Phase 1, civilian reporting networks integrated into corporate structures. Phase 2, private intelligence agencies contracted for domestic monitoring. Phase 3, partnerships between government, telecommunications firms, and private data collectors. Phase 4, full civilian compliance through voluntary digital surveillance. At the bottom, the American Protective League will not be remembered, but it will be reborn. This was written in 1918, and much of it had already happened. Evan's breath caught in his chest. This wasn't just history. This was the blueprint of modern America. Evan didn't hear the footsteps until they were close. Two men in black jackets entered the room quietly. No badges, no names, only purpose. "You've seen enough," one said. Evan stepped back, clutching the continuance document. "I haven't even begun," he replied. The second man sighed. "We hoped you would be reasonable." Evan turned to run, but a third figure appeared in the doorway. This was my moment. I had watched long enough. "Let him go," I commanded quietly. The men stiffened. Even in modern times, my presence carries a certain gravity among those who operate in the shadows. Evan stared at me, breathless. Who are you?" "A witness," I replied, "and someone who has lived long enough to know when a truce time has come." The men retreated without a fight. Evan was safe, for now, but the truth he carried would reshape him forever. For weeks, Evan wrestled with what he had learned. To reveal it meant upheaval, to conceal it meant complicity. He researched, cross-referenced, verified. Every thread he pulled led to a larger web of hidden influences still alive today. And yet, the continuance program was not entirely sinister. Much of it was born from genuine fear of sabotage during wartime. But fear, once institutionalized, rarely dies. Finally, Evan made his choice. He would tell the story, not to ignite panic, but to remind Americans of an uncomfortable truth. Freedom survives only when watched by an informed public, not by a secret one. Evan published his findings through an independent historians consortium. He expected backlash. He expected to be silenced. Instead, something unexpected happened. Students, journalists, and researchers across the nation validated his work. Survivors of families involved in the League stepped forward. Declassified documents confirmed his claims. For the first time in a century, America confronted a forgotten chapter of its past. Evan became a reluctant hero, not because he wanted fame, but because he sought truth, and truth found him worthy. I watched him from afar as his story spread. He was no longer the quiet seeker in the archives. He had become something else, a bridge between what America remembers and what it must never forget again. Life after truth is never easy, but it is honest, and honesty is the beginning of power. The American Protective League may have disappeared in name, but echoes of its systems remain. Evan's work reminded the public that power unobserved becomes power unrestrained. I end with this. America is a nation of ideals, but also a nation of fears. And fear always looks for eyes, sometimes in the sky, sometimes in the government, and sometimes in your neighbor. What Evan uncovered is not an indictment of a country, but a reminder. Transparency is strength, knowledge is defense, and power when hidden becomes its own threat. I have lived long enough to see empires rise and fall. The United States is unique not because it is pure, but because it allows truth to surface eventually. As long as seekers like Evan exist, America will endure, and I will continue watching. from the shadows, from the margins, from the centuries themselves. Because this story is not the only one buried in the archives. And you, reader, may be the next seeker.